Welcome, everybody. This is Authors Bantering. I'm Josh Bresslin. That's Ian M. Rogers. And today we are talking about what do you do when you don't feel like writing? Um, I'm going to be honest, Ian. Your answer is going to be a little different from me, but I'm just going to say it. Write anyways. So take over.
Well, no. Are you okay? So you can't say that and then not back it up because again,
Oh,
it's there's more than one way to look at this kind
okay.
of problem. So you say, if you don't feel like writing, you write anyway.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about that because I'm really
Yeah.
interested in that mentality.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm always in a state of not wanting to write. Oh, I shouldn't say that. At least half the time I don't want to write, and of that half, 90% that makes up that is just I'm not in my A game today. I don't have, the as much sleep as I would have liked to have had. I had a bit of a rough day at work. I'm a little cranky, whatever. My writing's just not going to be of the top quality, right? That's what makes up half that not wanting to write right there. That's such a good majority of it. And it's recognizing that and just writing through it anyways. I'm doing this now for I've written every day for almost 600 days because
Mm.
I came to recognize that I don't have the personality that can take time away. If I'm a bit like an alcoholic, I guess, in a weird sense, like in a weird comparison, in that much the same way that like one drink will just can ruin you if you're an alcoholic, right? Like it can set back decades of of sobriety. For me, if I take a day off from writing, it's going to be two, three, four, five. I'm not getting back to it. The psychological resistance that I experience is so heavy that I really cannot take time away. It's very very difficult to ever not be working on something. And so I take the mentality of write anyways. And I think as a general rule, that's probably what you should do. That's what most of the I wouldn't say most. That's what some of the published authors that are out there do is write anyways. But yeah, I know I'm the anomaly here. So
No, well, no. That's but again, just coming at it from this different perspective, I think is very interesting to me. And again, that to me makes a lot of sense, and that you keep up this rhythm, and that
yeah.
it just becomes part of your regular routine. The same way that for me, brushing my teeth and making my bed are
Mm.
things that I do. I've certainly made my bed every day for more than 600 days. It's or sick days I don't, but other regular non-sick days I do. But I don't write every day. I write several times a week. And I like to write in bigger chunks of time, which are really valuable to me. And for me, if I only have a half an hour or 45 minutes, I'm not going to produce my best work as if I will if I have 3 hours to say, okay, I'm going to sit down for these 3 hours, and maybe the first hour is not going to be that good, but by hour two, I'm really really going to be rolling.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to schedule my writing time. So I'll say, okay, today is Monday. I can write on Tuesday and Thursday and Friday, but Wednesday I got something on going on, so I can't. And that kind of setting an appointment, just like any other type of meeting or engagement, to me will be tremendously helpful,
Mm.
and it'll help me take that appointment more seriously, and it'll help me sit down to it, but it won't be me over promising myself, so that if other things do get in the way, I won't fall off the wagon in that sense, to borrow from the alcoholic terminology again.
Yeah.
It won't be the end of the world if I can't write on Wednesday, because I already told myself I'm going to write on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but Wednesday I'm going to take off and work on this other thing that I have to work on. So that's me. That, keeping that in mind, sometimes even after I've made those appointments, when it comes time to keep them, something's off. I'm, like you said, stressed, lack of sleep, something bad happened at work, I'm worried about something, oh no, something else has got to be done, or I just, maybe my body is also physically not feeling good. Maybe I'm on the verge of getting sick but not actually sick. And
Yeah.
these are all things that I've dealt with at one time or the other. And so when this happens, let's say I made an appointment to, start writing at 9 a.m. What I'm going to do, and it gets 9 a.m. and I'm not feeling it, something's wrong, and I try and take a step back and think about, okay, why is something wrong? Do I need to, zone out and take some time to gather my thoughts for a while? Do I need to, meditation or some form of, concentrated thinking can be very, very helpful for me. It can help me get out of that headspace, out of that stressful headspace, that can really, really help. Or I'll do things like I'll listen to music to either relax me or energize me, or usually some version of both in that scenario. And again, this is a way of sort of bringing my headspace into the writing area where it needs to be. And sometimes this can take 10 minutes, sometimes it can take 90 minutes. So if I've got a 2.5 hour block set aside and 90 minutes is warm up, so be it. It's I need that time to make that last hour be worthwhile is something that I will try to do. Sometimes I'll pull out books and I will read. I'll pull out favorite books and I'll look up favorite passages, or maybe passages that are relevant to what I'm working on that day, that project, and just try and use somebody else's words to jumpstart my own. And again, this is the goal of doing this kind of thing: the meditation, the music, the words from other writers, is to try and salvage some part of that scheduled chunk of time. Because for me, sitting in front of the keyboard does not cut it. Like that doesn't work for me. That for me makes me more stressed, and it makes me more anxious, or it's even hard to sit down at the keyboard even if I'm not ready to write yet. And so I need to sort of build that up when I'm in this bad headspace. And so this is what I try to do when I feel bad enough that I don't want to write, but I still think that I can. These are my B minus days or my C days, for example.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm having a D minus day or an F day, like something's really bad. Like the bad news came in the night before. I was up all night worrying about the bad news, and then I woke up, and you know what? I know I can't write today. I just know it. It's my head is not going to be there. Again, you and I differ on this, but if it is one of those days where something so bad happened, I don't want to put that away. I don't want to compartmentalize it so I can sit down and work on this unrelated fiction project. I want to deal with that thing that's bothering me. I want to rest. I want to work through it in a way that doesn't involve avoidance. And so if it's that bad, then I will cancel the writing day and I will work on that thing instead. I will take the time to reflect, to step away with the goal. Okay, if I can work through this mental block that's happening, again, maybe I need 6 hours, 12 hours, 2 days to do that. But if I can work through it, then maybe on Thursday, I can get back into writing. And usually that is something that I'm able to do. So I'm able to work past those blocks and then start writing the next day.
Excellent.
So this is the counter argument to the write every day. It's,
yeah.
It's the appointment writing style is what
right.
I usually.
And I don't.
Does this seem like? What are your thoughts on this? Because again, I'm interested to hear your perspective on how I do it.
Yeah, I think for any writer that does not experience like the really crippling procrastination, I think that's fine. Like what you do is fine. And I don't want anyone to think I don't always show up with like the best like days of writing every single day, right? Even though I do it every day, there were days where like I was sick, right? Like last month and a half ago I had COVID, right?
Yeah.
I wrote for the bare minimum. I did the bare one day I wrote a sentence. That was it. So
wow.
I will adjust my goals for the day depending upon how I'm feeling at certain times. That's an extreme, right? Like the day I had my auto accident there and I was in the hospital till like 10 o'clock at night or whatever it was. I got here, I wrote out like a couple sentences and submitted it that day because I just did not have the time and everything was going on. So I still did a little bit of something, right? Now, most days, regardless, I'm there. But I still do experience those days too where I have interruptions in my life, like these major life moments, and I'm just doing the bare minimum to just technically call it that. But like 90% of it, 95%, you got it. Like at least, I think people have to be showing up for these things. And
that's a good way. I like your way of dealing with that actually, because again, the days that I'm talking about, my D minus and F days, those are 3% of days or 2% or some very small number like that. They're not happening every week. This is a once in a while thing. And so it's interesting. So your way of dealing with those days is to just write a sentence. For me, it's to write 0 sentences. Yeah. Which again, the difference between 1 sentence and 0 sentences is not that much in the grand scheme of thing. That's like what 0.000 whatever percent of a novel, right? And so in the grand scheme, it doesn't make a huge difference. But for you, by writing that sentence, that keeps you on the wagon. That keeps you on your streak.
Yep.
And for me, it allows me to separate myself from the work and deal with other things. So it's like you're using the writing day as a way to keep up your streak, keep up your habit, avoid the procrastination, avoid falling off. And I'm using it to distance myself and deal with those problems in other
Bingo.
ways. So it sounds like we both found a really, really good workaround around this. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad you clarified this because by you being open about, okay, I wrote every day, but sometimes it was only a sentence when I had COVID or had a car accident. That's really important because there might be other writers listening to you who might say like, Josh Bresslin writes every day, I have to write every day too.
Yeah.
And maybe they get COVID or they have a car accident and they don't know that you only wrote a sentence when you did those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Your longevity in doing, like, just it being consistent writing every single day comes in your ability to recover. And we can do a separate topic about recovery another time, but not burning yourself out on the days that you can't write is still very important too. And it's the rare days, like, again, if 95%, right, that's every 20 days you do every single day, right? So if one day every 3 weeks basically you have some major crippling thing happen, right, you're probably going to be on track and be fine.
So one day out of 3 weeks, so that's 21 days. That's less than 5% of the days.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's very good.
Exactly right. That's what I'm saying. So if you experience that once every 3 weeks, so right, so like less than maybe a little more than maybe once, not even once a month. That will, if you can do that and either take days, and if you're a normal person, right, just take a day off. That's fine, and you have so much of the habit instilled that you're still going to be set. You're still going to be fine because you've been so consistent with it, and that's kind of a good kind of common ground between you and I is. Most of the time, we don't feel like writing. We still do it. That's a big common ground here, right? We're talking about the 5% of the time, right?
Yes.
So most of the time, we don't feel like writing. It's a very important thing to understand. Like there's a lot of times that I wake up and I'm happy, like I write, like I'm ready to go to the keyboard. And I'm getting a lot of joy out of it, right?
Me too.
A lot of the times, though, I'm not in the mood to do it, and maybe as I go along, I start to get into it, right? This is a nice sentence I reworked.
I have plenty of days like that, too.
Exactly.
Those days are kind of the best days, actually, because you feel like, I overcame.
You actually did something. Exactly. You weren't in the mood, but you got there, and it's like going to the gym. It's the best comparison, right? Like, people that go to the gym regularly, like half the time you don't want to go. Half the time you're not listening to your playlist, getting all pumped up, being like, I can't work. Woo. You're just going because it's a habit. You just go because it's a habit, right? That fire you have when you first go to the gym, when you're like, oh, I'm going to change my life. That fire goes out really, really quick. And you don't have that, and a lot of it is just you as a regular sort of habit, just go because that's what it is. But when you go to the gym, you find that I can push myself a little more. Maybe I'll go for a PR today. Maybe I'll do this, right? You find a certain joy in the act of doing it, right? Same thing with the writing. You may not feel like you want to go write, but as you do it, you may find something you've enjoyed about the day you spent, that you spent writing. That's an important thing to recognize and revel in, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So again, most of the time you're not necessarily going to be in the mood to write. You still need to.
I think for all the different strategies that you and I have been talking about, I think that is the one thing that we definitely have in common. The idea that sometimes you're not going to be feeling it, but then you will start to feel it and get into it more as you begin to write. And I think that's a very important experience to keep in mind, especially if you're just starting out and you haven't really experienced that yet, and you're one of those writers who like only writes when the muse strikes them, or has to be in a certain everything, the stars have to be aligned for you to sit down at the keyboard. There's going to be plenty of days, and I would even argue the majority of the days for me are days when you sit down and you're not really feeling it, but you're feeling it enough to sit down, and then over the course of writing you get into your groove and you remember, okay, this is why I do this.
Exactly.
This is the way things are supposed to go right here. And you don't feel that in the first 5 minutes, but you will feel that after the 50th minute.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 45 minutes in usually. Yeah, say when you're getting closer to the hour mark, that you're exactly right. That's typically when you'll be like, okay, now I'm feeling the groove. Now I'm in. Absolutely.
Which again, that's why I like to write for longer stretches of time, because I know that first 45 minutes is not going to be my best work or even my most productive work. I might write 100 words in the first 45 minutes, 500 words in the second 45 minutes and then 1,000 words in the last 45 minutes, because that's what kind of groove I'll be on.
Bingo.
And that to me would be a very good day. 1,600 words in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. It'd be nice, man. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you there, Ian. So excellent.
I like this. We started off being very in complete disagreement, and then we found common ground.
We did. Yeah, I know. If only the word worked that well, right? Yeah.
Successful episode for that reason. So.
That was awesome. I agree. We found sort of the same idea, just different approaches to kind of the same idea, which is important to recognize that the core idea remains. Be consistent, and missing a day every now and then is not a problem, but being consistent with it is what matters. Yeah. So I guess on that note, we'll kind of wrap up here. I'm Josh Bresslin. Ian M. Rogers will be signing off. As always, if you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up. With that, if you have any kind of topics you want us to discuss, maybe a question about some aspect of the writing process, let us know and we can address it in a future video. But with that, I'm Josh Bresslin. That's Ian M. Rogers, and we are signing off.
Take it easy.
See you next week.